Hey, what up? This is Zach Guilford from Midnight Mass, and you're listening to one of my favorite podcasts, Pop Culture Pastor.
Pop Culture Pastor.
So, full disclosure, Cody.
Okay.
I may be dying.
I hope not.
I am definitely sick, although it's resulting in have you ever seen that episode of Friends where Phoebe gets like her smoky, sultry voice because she's got a cold, she's sick?
Oh, yeah.
That's how I feel. Like I've got this like kind of sultry thing going on, and I should be the sticky shoes, you know, like she sings that song. And I just feel like I have this, I don't feel great. I'm just going to be honest. Although I'm riding high on the Dayquil right now.
Well, you're here, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, if you don't hear me sneeze, it's probably because we edited this. That's what I'm saying.
Looking at you, Matt.
I've been doing a lot of sneezing. But anyway, there we go. So I don't know if this episode's going to be a little bit shorter than usual. I don't know. We're just going to get into it, and it depends on how I'm feeling.
We're going to go 4 hours today.
We are not going 4 hours. This is my pledge to you. This is Pop Culture Pastor. Welcome to our podcast. Cody and I are licensed ministers.
We are.
And also lovers of pop culture.
All the pop culture.
And that's our shtick, baby.
Yeah.
That's our thing.
Yeah. Name it and claim it.
That's what we say to do, is to name it and claim it. First things first, we always start off with some pop culture news. And Cody, this first item I know you're crushed about.
Okay.
But the Wendy Williams show will air its final episode on the day this pod drops, Friday. Deadline has confirmed. The Wendy Williams show, slated to be continued through the end of the season with rotating guest hosts, as Williams has been sidelined with health issues for the entire season. But she won't even be there for the final episode. And I just have one question, Cody. Who's Wendy Williams?
Oh, my goodness.
Did I miss something?
You have missed so much.
I honestly don't know who this is. I wasn't aware she had a show until you sent me this news article. And you put news in capital letters, and I'm just sitting there going, I don't know who this is.
Oh my goodness! So
seriously, who's Wendy Williams?
Someone that had a talk show in the mornings.
Did people watch this?
If you watched The Soup and the Joel McHale show on Netflix, you watched clips from this show because it was always a train wreck, and it was amazing.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, she would be like, "What you talking about?" And
wow, that is entertaining.
But, like, she would, there were so many just epic fails over and over again, and The Soup, made a whole segment just about Wendy Williams.
How long has this show been on?
I don't know.
13 years, it says. 13 years in syndication.
Not long enough.
If it was a train wreck, how did it last so long?
Because people can't look away from a train wreck. Although she did some things within the past year, and I can't remember what it was, but she almost got canceled.
I mean, I don't know who she is, but I'm sad to hear she's having some health issues with whatever. They're not real specific about that, so I hope she's okay. But I mean, I don't want to make too much fun of her at her expense.
Yes,
I honestly have never heard of the show, seen the show, watched the show, but daytime TV is not usually my bag. Not anymore. Not since high school.
Yeah. She was always very nice, even when other shows were making fun of her, and The Soup invited her on and had her appear during one of the segments that they were reviewing her show.
Oh, so she was in on the joke too.
Yeah.
She didn't mind.
Yeah.
You know what? I dig people like that.
I do too.
Don't let people laugh at you. Laugh with them. Be able to laugh at yourself. That's a good trait.
Yeah. Now, again, I don't remember what it was that she nearly got canceled on the Twitterverse for.
Within
the past year, but
I mean, who knows? But she joins a pretty nice club there.
Typically,
honestly, who hasn't? Honestly, I see it as a failure of our podcast that we haven't gotten canceled on Twitter for something because no one knows we're there. That's why like it's a failure on our part that we're not even. Twitter doesn't even notice us. We're like a gnat. Because surely we've said something at this point that Twitter would have been upset about.
Their loss for not listening.
It is their loss. I agree. I know for a fact people that are on Facebook don't like some of the things we say.
Spoilers.
Just because a lot of them are in my church.
Yeah.
How dare you, sir? I'm sorry. What did we say now?
Who do you think you are? I am.
In other news, this blew me away, Cody.
Okay.
This was amazing. Sean P. Diddy Combs, Puffy Combs. I don't even know what he goes by anymore.
Puff Daddy.
That's not since like the late 90s, right? Early aughts.
Yeah.
He rose to prominence in the 90s alongside his good friend, the Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah.
And after Biggie's death, he paid tribute to the rapper with a song. Do you remember that song?
Yes, because he used Sting and the Police.
Can you sing that song?
Not on this airing.
Darn it. I thought we could trick him into that. Yeah, of course. He paid tribute to his friend in a song called I'll Be Missing You, which sampled the Police's Every Breath You Take, right? Very popular song.
Which, I will be honest, I cannot tell if a song is a Sting song or if it's a Police song or if it's Phil Collins or Genesis.
This is definitely a Police song, but that little detail does come into question later in the story here. So he died in 1997, Notorious B.I.G. Puff Daddy makes this song. Everyone had heard of it. It was kind of a huge song. It won a Grammy for Best Rap Performance by a duo or group. Spent 11 weeks at number one. And as we said, famously samples Every Breath You Take by the Police. Sampling was kind of in a weird place back then.
Yeah.
Rappers were doing a lot of sampling. It was a common thing in hip hop, but laws around it remained unclear. And apparently, Diddy never cleared it with the Police. The band. He never cleared it with the band, the Police, leading to some frustration with band members and apparently some financial difficulties for our guy P. Diddy.
How dare they?
If Diddy had asked permission, so this is where it gets weird. If he had asked permission to sample the iconic song, he would have probably only had to pay 25% of the publishing royalties.
Okay.
Which, I mean, must be a lot smaller than what he's paying. The article I'm reading does not tell us that information. But because of copyright law, Sting, the lead singer of the Police and the frontman for the group, was able to claim 100% of the royalties from the song, which, as you might imagine, still gets played a lot.
Oh, yeah.
On the old Spotify and things. As a result, Sting has been raking it in.
Oh, yeah.
This is amazing. P. Diddy essentially pays Sting $2,000 a day royalties for sampling Every Breath You Take. $2,000 a day. That is $730,000 a year.
Okay. So if I was Sting.
Oh, okay. We're
Yeah.
going to role play.
We are.
All right.
Yeah, I'd keep some of the money. But I think I would set aside something that would honor Biggie Smalls.
Okay.
Because
We don't know he's not. Just for clarity's sake.
We don't know this. But if I was Sting, and I would let that fact be known.
Yeah.
Because right now, there's people like, he did nothing in this song except write the original version, and this version's better and less creepy because the original's creepy.
This is where it gets amazing, man. Okay, because now it's just Sting. All right?
Yeah.
You need to know that the guy getting the royalty money is Sting. Here's the problem as it pertains to the rest of the Police. Guitarist Andy Summers of the Police, the group, is the only one you actually hear on P. Diddy's song "I'll Be Missing You." The
Yes, he is.
He's the only one of the group you actually hear. It's the only part sampled. But guess who doesn't get any of that money? So Andy Summers and let's see, who's the other guy? Copeland. Is he in the band as well? Because he has some things to say about it. But Andy Summers first spoke about the payment discrepancy back in a 2000 interview with Revolver. He said, quote, Sting's making out like a bank robber here while Andy and I have gone unrewarded and unloved for our efforts and contributions. This is from another band member named Copeland, who I'm not.
Stuart Copeland.
Summers later expressed his thoughts on, quote, the major ripoff of all time in a 2012 interview with AV Club. He says, it's very flattering. I guess everybody likes it. Stewart's not on it. Sting's not on it. I'd be walking around Tower Records and the explicative thing would be playing over and over. And it was actually my kid, who was 10 at the time, said, hey, Dad, there's some girl on the radio who's playing you guys. I went into his room and listened to his radio, and I was like, well, this is me, but I don't know what this is. I don't know what the song is. So sounds like the Police aren't really down with each other anymore.
Well, I mean, whenever Sting does performances, it's not with the Police.
Andy there seems like he wants to defund the Police. But oh,
Ayo.
Oh man. So yeah, Diddy's paying $2,000 a day to Sting. I'm not really sure how all that works. So does Sting like own? He must own the music.
I assume he either owned the music or he wrote the song.
Now, yeah, so he owns the music if he writes it and copyrights it. But like, I would assume that when you listed under the writers of the music, like, okay, so if Andy Copeland, or if Andy, that's not his name. Was that his name?
No, that was Stuart Copeland.
Andy Summers. So if Andy Summers came up with the guitar riff, then he should technically have a writing credit.
Yeah.
Copyright law is weird, right?
Very, very weird.
But from what it sounds like, Sting apparently takes credit for writing this song and must be the only guy that has it. Otherwise, Andy would get him a piece of this sweet, sweet Diddy money.
Again, I will say the original version sounds like a stalker creeping on someone.
It's a good song, though. I mean, that's a classic song.
It is a classic song. And yet, I will listen to the tribute to Biggie Smalls.
I would caution us and say, too, because this all makes Sting look pretty bad.
It does.
But I'm guessing the royalties he makes off of Every Breath You Take is way more than $2,000 a day.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure that their original song still makes more in royalties than Diddy's version.
Yeah.
It's classic. It's one of the best songs of all time. And the band must not have had any complaints about the copyright before this. Or maybe they do. We need like a special on the Police here. What's going on here? They don't sound friendly.
Pop-up video from VH1 back in the day.
That was a great show.
They had, I think it was a Sting song. So solo Sting. But they popped up how much he makes per day in royalties. Mm-hmm. It was in the tens of thousands at that point.
That's insane. That's unbelievable, huh?
Yeah, just in royalties. Not in new music being released, not in T-shirt sales or whatever.
I mean, I can't even imagine that right now, especially at a time where, like, I can't speak for you, but I know money is getting tight. Everything's twice as expensive as it was a year ago, except for gas, which is like 4 times expensive, seems like.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is just as off of a pop culture topic. This is off topic, but I was just sitting around with my wife the other day, just kind of thinking about, like, when are we going to run into problems here? When are people going to stop being able to afford to drive to work? Like, because my wife asked a very real question, which was, are they going to do another stimulus? It seems like they would have to if this continues. But I said, well, this is kind of how a recession happens. This is how a depression happens. Is people can't afford to even get to work anymore, and nobody's got any money, and the food starts getting scarce. It's kind of nuts. Meanwhile, I guess Sting's going to be all right.
Don't worry about your favorite lead singer that has the name of a wrestler.
Or does the wrestler have his name?
I am going with Sting, the wrestler, in this battle.
We need to talk about Morebius 2. What are you laughing about? Why are you laughing?
It's Morbin time.
It is Morbin time. Yeah. Morebius 2 is a real thing that can happen, Cody.
I hope.
At least
it
Jared
does.
Leto says so.
Yes.
Jared Leto, doing an interview with The Playlist, was asked what the chances of his playing Morebius again are. And he said, well, as the old saying goes, never say never. Never, Jared. I think we could I think we could actually say never.
I am just thrilled at Sony's decision-making skills.
I mean, this is an unmitigated disaster, is Morebius. Currently, as we sit here, there is a petition online for the Sony to bring back Morebius to the theaters a third time.
Yes.
Written on the petition was like, okay, just kidding. We know we messed up the last one, but we promise we'll go this time. And it's all a joke. It's all hilarious, and people are making fun of Morebius because it's a bad movie. And I feel like what's really important right now, Cody, is that we go back in time.
Okay.
Man, I wish we could play the clip. I wish I had that kind of technology where I sit here and I say how bad Morebius is going to be, and you defend it and say it could be good. The trailer looks good. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm just going to replay it. I'm going to reenact it. I don't know, man. It looks like trash. Sony never does anything right.
I will say they used the best Doors song possible in the trailer.
Cody is you'll have to forgive me, he's a fan of the DCEU. So he's used to, he has lowered expectations.
I do. If you can make a good trailer, I might watch it. Although this was like bombed before it even made it to local theaters around us, so I didn't get to watch it. It could be a cinematic masterpiece. And people are dogging it, and I don't know.
I really need another Morebius just so I can get more stories about him taking 45-minute bathroom breaks because he refused to break character. So he was using like a wheelchair and or crutches and would go to the bathroom and not break character. And the director said he'd be gone for like 45 minutes. Now, what I really need is to know what was going on in that bathroom. Was he making a mess? What was happening?
If I was a cast member, I would have like holy water or some silver in a wooden stake and be like, you hurry up now or you'll get staked.
I mean, imagine making the crew wait that whole time because you're quote unquote a method actor, which we'll come back to that. But imagine making them wait that whole time for a movie that junky, that terrible.
Oh,
like, and what's funny is that doesn't happen in a bubble. Most of the people working on that movie understand and know that this is a junk movie, that this movie isn't good, right? I mean, I'm not an actor, but I would just assume you know.
I would hope, but I mean, you can pour in your best acting performance, and it just goes by the wayside. But look at this cast. You have Jared Leto, who, again, 1 out of like every 5.
How do you not pay a guy like that? 1 out of every 5 times, he's going to get you some box office.
Michael Keaton's in it.
No, he's not. He's basically not in it. They pushed it all the way to a bonus scene that doesn't even make sense in the story.
Did you watch it?
No, I just read about it.
Oh,
Did
okay.
I watch it?
I like to
me?
think you went out of the way to see this.
No. It's past the point of me ever watching it.
Like, I'll watch it if it's on a free stream.
I mean, the only way I would ever watch it is if we did a live YouTube stream of us watching it together and just talking about how badly terrible it is.
Matt Smith is in it.
Okay.
From Doctor Who.
I mean, he's be like the 4th Doctor Who I would have wanted in a movie.
Tyrese Gibson is in it.
He'd be like the fourth Fast and Furious guy.
So,
I'm not blown away by this cast.
like, there's names associated with it, but yeah, I can't help that this was not the fifth Jared Leto movie.
Nope, it's one of the four.
Yeah.
It's one of the four, unfortunately, for Sony, and any hopes they had of striking out on this Spider-Verse thing.
/ it's a weird character.
But they're still talking about it. Yeah, well, this is what they do, though, because they're currently making a Craven movie. And what I want to say is, like, what are you doing? You just, listen, the reason nobody wanted to see Morebius isn't because the movie was junk. I mean, that just helped. It just helped that nobody wanted to see it. The reason nobody wants to see it is because a Spider-Man villain is not interesting without Spider-Man.
Spoilers.
Venom is a completely standalone thing. Like, you can't count Venom. And I would say this, if Kevin Feige came out with a Venom standalone movie, it would have made 3 times as much money.
Yeah.
Because it would have been a better flick. All right? So you just got by with Venom on the strength of the love that people have for the character.
The character, and if you are a Tom Hardy fan.
But as far as Spider-Man villains go, you got no one in that caliber. Everyone else can be an interesting character. Like, look, the story of Morebius, the story of Craven, they're interesting. But without Spider-Man, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. And we don't need... I haven't heard any stories about Aaron Taylor Johnson's method acting. Making people wait on the set of Craven for him to learn Russian. Whatever Craven is.
They are making a Venom 3.
Whoop-de-doo. I'm so excited.
I'm glad.
I don't care. I'm proud to say I haven't seen the first 2 Venoms. I am just staunchly anti-Sony. Like, I just don't care to see any of their movies. I pretty much decided that in the second Amazing Spider-Man movie.
Okay.
And now seeing Andrew Garfield and how charming he is as Spider-Man in an MCU movie, I'm completely justified in that position, because Andrew Garfield was a good choice for Spider-Man. Emma Stone was great as Gwen Stacy, and that one scene was highly affecting. But the rest of that movie is junk, and the fact that they couldn't make a good Spider-Man movie with those pieces in place tells me that all I need to know about Sony.
And Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx, but making him unrecognizable, which No Way Home actually makes fun of.
As they should.
Yeah, they should.
So Venom 1, not bad. Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage or whatever, not good. Like, they misuse Woody Harrelson.
Okay, stop. I'm going to write that down. I'll write it down. I want to take notes because, you're telling me how Venom was.
Yes.
And I want to know. No, I'm just being sarcastic and mean now.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to convince me. I'm just never going to watch those movies.
I will watch the third one. Unless it is Venom versus Morebius. And then I will buy you a ticket so that we can watch it together.
Okay. A short aside on method acting. Unless your name is Daniel Day-Lewis, you're being ridiculous.
Yeah.
You're being ridiculous. The whole point of being a good actor is you could turn it on and off, right? Mm-hmm. What is this method acting junk? This is nonsense.
Although De Niro did it.
I could make a pretty good argument that it's just narcissism.
Probably. Now, is it Deer Hunter?
De Niro scares me a little bit, though. I'm afraid if he hears me say that, he might come beat me up. He seems a little on edge.
The Russian roulette scene, they actually supposedly have a round in the chamber.
That doesn't seem intelligent.
It does not. But method acting.
I mean, I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it. Maybe they thought they did.
Hopefully, someone on set was like, oh, let's switch this out.
I think Alec Baldwin would have thoughts.
Yes.
Final news item. I've got PureFlix news.
Yeah. We're getting the targeted demographic today with Morebius
If
news.
you are unaware of what PureFlix is, half our audience just went, "What's PureFlix?" PureFlix is basically a Christian network.
It is like the Christian version of Netflix.
Okay.
That's how I'm going to word it.
They've got a series coming out called Live and Local. The new show starring Dave Coulier
Yes.
from Full House. We've got Coulier, everybody. We got him. He's ours.
Joseph Gladstone.
Yeah, whatever. I didn't watch Full House, but apparently that's his name on the Full House.
They call him Joey, but every season they would have an episode where he would try to become straight-laced because someone made fun of him, or he's getting a new job, or his dad's in town, and you'd be like, poor Joey. And so he'd be like Joseph A. Gladstone or something. I don't know.
Live and Local tells the tale of what happens when a veteran radio talk show host and his co-host have to navigate the ups and downs of the radio world when a new program director takes over. They work for K-Hug.
Oh, my goodness.
This show sounds ridiculous.
It does.
Just as a side note, Cody and I are in radio.
We are.
We do a show on a Christian radio station. This sounds a lot like it's supposed to be K-Love, which is a real Christian corporate evil entity. I mean entity.
Yes. I will not comment on their goodness or evilness.
I'm just kidding. Don't hit us with any like slander.
Yes.
That was needless K-Love slander, and I'm better than that.
You are.
No, I'm not. K-Hug. They work for K-Hug Radio, and it has other people on it that I've never heard of. And this show just looks like I have to not watch it.
Yeah. So the person that I saw shared the show is a lead singer of a Christian band known as Skillet.
Oh, yeah. John Cooper.
Yeah.
Who we talked about on the radio, and you got a little piece of that if you listened to our radio leftovers pod.
So I've met John Cooper. He was nice in person, but he's become more politicized since I've met him.
He is the Kirk Cameron of Christian rock.
He is. That's a good way to word it. And so I'm not going to bash anyone that watches the show. If I had PureFlix, it would probably be the show I'd watch, just because I'm here for some Uncle Joey making a comeback.
All right. Well, Live and Local is a 6-episode series. It's only 6 episodes. The show follows the hosts of an early morning radio show on Christian station K-Hug. Tommy, played by Dave, and Tina, played by Emily Pendergast, make the dynamite combination for TNT in the morning. That sounds like the worst Christian radio show of all time. I'm just going to say it. But the first 2 episodes will be available exclusively on PureFlix on July 7th. Look at PureFlix dropping them weekly.
The exclusivity.
It looks like it's Obi-Wan. Like, hey, we're not giving this to y'all at once. You got to wait for it.
Oh, PureFlix.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
If someone buys a subscription to PureFlix and is like,
Ooh, oh, yes.
do you guys want to watch this?
No, but if you have a subscription to PureFlix and you're listening to this, you got to watch the show, and then we'll give you 5 minutes on a Zoom call to tell the audience how the show is.
Yes, because I will not be watching. But
That's a great idea, Cody.
if you say it's amazing, I guess if someone else has a subscription in my local area,
Yeah.
I may bum off of that.
This is serious. Yes, to all our listeners out there, if you have PureFlix, please let us know when we post this episode to social media. Just comment below on Facebook or Twitter. Tell us I have PureFlix and I am willing to do a 5-minute review on the show.
Oh, sweet niblets.
Oh my goodness, this would be amazing. I'm so excited about this. None of our listeners have PureFlix, do they?
There will be 2.
No.
I'm going bold.
Man, you're not even Pentecostal. You just went prophecy.
Yes.
You went prophetic. All right. I'm going to believe with you. I'm speaking over it and believing with you in that prophecy. Hey, we're going to head out to the lobby, get ready to answer some listener questions. Meet us out there. All right, we are out in the lobby, getting ourselves a snack and answering listener questions. That's what we like to do out in the lobby.
Werther's Originals.
You're going to give up the chocolate-covered raisins for the Werther's? I'm sorry, I didn't know you were an 85-year-old man. Do you keep them in your chest pocket to give to all the kids? Here you go, Sonny. Here's a Werther's.
It's an elitist candy.
Really?
Yes.
We don't have time for this. No, yeah, we do. Why is it elitist?
Only rich, fancy people have Werther's Originals.
That is not true.
Or really old
My
people.
wife's grandpa used to carry him around in his chest pocket, and he wasn't rich. He's a farmer.
When in doubt, pinky out and dish out a Werther's Original.
Actually, he's more of a carpenter. He wasn't rich.
He was independently wealthy, owned his own business, from what I'm hearing.
No.
That's
untrue. Werther's is the common man.
No.
Yeah. You're too young. You don't understand what you're talking about. You speak on things you cannot understand. You're meddling with powers.
Zach Galifianakis told me Werther's Originals and Reese's Pieces.
What about Reese's Pieces?
Elitist candies.
Now you're looking to get punched.
Elitist
I'm
candies.
a pastor. I'm a reverend. But leave the Reese's Pieces out of this. How can they be elitist if they were E.T.'s favorite?
Out of this world, Dave. That costs money.
All right. We're out in the lobby. We're getting a snack. I'll take some Reese's Pieces and Werther's. Hold my pinky out while I'm eating them just to mess with Cody. All right. First question. We'll never get past this if we just don't go to the questions. We're gonna move past this ridiculous, insane comment by Cody. Someone can ask us about our candy categorizing later. Eric Farmer from right here in Chanute.
Oh, hey.
Our little small town. He asks, do you think they should remake the classic 1986 Transformers, the movie, with today's animation tech and adding in all the scenes they cut out, but leave the awesome 80s soundtrack intact? Oh, yeah, sure.
I'm down for that, yeah.
Always. Although, I'm kind of fine with the original animation.
Yeah.
I part of me would be sad. I'm not opposed to so I've often thought they should go back and redo Star Wars 4, 5, and 6.
That's a bold comment.
With new special effects and new redo the fight scenes and everything that don't hold up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so much of a purist that I guess what I'm saying is, Eric, sure. But I am absolutely overjoyed to hear that you want to keep the 80s soundtrack intact.
You'd have to.
Little Stan Bush action. We talked a little bit about this on the last pod.
Mm-hmm.
How they play this Stan Bush song, "You Got the Touch," and it's when Optimus. So you get dropped into this movie, you hit the ground running. It's action right off the bat. Transformers the movie. We're all 12 years old. Let me set the stage for you, Cody. 12 years old, roughly.
Okay.
And we're at the theater by ourselves for the first time ever, because this was the international. We're getting dropped off at the theater for this movie, Transformers the movie, because it was a cartoon. It's based on an after-school cartoon.
Yes.
Except there were real stakes in this movie, because you get dropped down in the middle of it. The action's already popping off, and the Decepticons are attacking. And here comes Optimus Prime. It's like, you got the touch. Pew, 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 pew. You got the power. Yeah. And it's all 80s, and the 80s soundtrack's popping off, and then Optimus Prime dies 15 minutes into the movie. And we're all crying and sad, but it makes way for Hot Rod to become Rodimus Prime, take over leader of the Autobots.
As one does.
Let me tell you, this movie is so much better than any of these stupid live-action Transformer movies they've come out with Marky Mark. No, they're so bad.
And Shia LaBeouf before that.
There's only one Transformers movie, and it's Transformers the movie, and it's animated.
And it has Orson Welles in it.
Yeah, Orson Welles is the voice of Unicron,
which is my favorite.
He's like a giant planet
size
that eats other planets.
Yeah.
He's what Ego should have been in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I'll say it.
Dave with all the hot takes.
Why Transformers the movie is better than Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Don't at me. So So yeah, I am on board with that. Eric goes to my church, so I'm thinking that Eric knew that I'd be on board with that.
I'm on board for it, although I don't know who you get to voice Unicron, just because that's a very signature voice.
Morgan Freeman. Now you get Morgan Freeman.
Or do you get James Earl Jones?
No. You can't go with James Earl Jones. He already voices something too big. Something big in pop culture. He's Darth Vader and CNN. He's both. He's Darth Vader / CNN. Do they still use his voice on CNN?
I don't know.
Surely they do. Why would you give up James Earl Jones?
I don't know.
And then he does the big speech in Field of Dreams. People will come, Ray. People will most definitely come.
But, okay, so you're saying Morgan Freeman has to voice Unicron.
Well, it just seems like the obvious choice because you want it to be someone like with gravitas. Who else are you getting? Bill Clinton.
Not on my list, but...
Barack Obama. No.
Barack would have a distinct voice, though.
Yeah, he doesn't work. I think it's got to be Morgan Freeman.
Okay.
Optimus Prime's still alive. You still have the same guy who's voicing him, correct? Because he voiced him in the movies, too.
Yeah, let's see.
I think they weren't going to have him voice him, and then there was an outcry. They were like, how dare you, sir? That guy is Optimus Prime.
Yes, Peter Cullen is still alive.
Awesome. Yeah.
He's only 80, so...
Man, we better get busy remaking this, because Peter could go any day. All right. Next question comes from Scott Patrick Dillon.
Friend of the show.
Geek of the round table. Scott Patrick Dillon. He says, or he asks, who's your most wanted guest star for the podcast? Oh, my goodness. That's such a tough question.
Okay.
Wow. Like, really, really want the dude from Shazam who played Kurt Warner in the Kurt Warner movie. What's his name?
Zachary Levi?
Zachary Levi. Because, okay, bear with us.
Okay.
He's big in pop culture. He was Chuck on a geek show. That was like, listen, if you're a geek, you should watch Chuck. Go back and watch Chuck. Because that is full of geek Easter eggs and funny 80s, 90s comedy callbacks. And he plays, it's like got spy stuff in it. It's funny. And then he was Shazam. And then he played Kurt Warner. And he's apparently a Christian.
Yeah.
Which you don't have to be on our show, but it just fits because we're pastors.
It does.
So Zachary Levi, if you're listening, the door is open. The ball's in your court, sir.
It is.
The invitation has been given, and if you don't take it, then we'll take it as a declaration of war.
That's a little extreme.
And we must have a thing for Zach's, because I would also take Zach from Midnight Mass, since he's our friend.
Friend of the show.
What was his last name? Zach Guilford.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did a thing for us where he told everyone that Pop Culture Pastor was his favorite podcast, and said that he'd be interested in being on the show. By the way, I haven't called him on it, but maybe we could. Maybe we'd have him on the show. I was kind of waiting for him to have another big thing because Midnight Mass came out and he was in that. He was great in that show.
Yeah, he was in a show that my wife made me watch, and I don't remember what it's called, but it had Christina Hendricks in it.
Yeah, where the women are all criminals. That's on Netflix. That's a good show.
Yeah.
He was maybe best known for Friday Night Lights, the TV show Friday Night Lights. He's the backup quarterback when the star quarterback gets hurt. Yeah, and he's thrust into duty, and he's not like, football's not his life.
Football's not my life either, Zach.
And he was great in that show. And he also dated the coach's daughter. Precarious position.
Yeah, rough spot to be in.
Also a great show. It's a wonderful show. You don't have to like football to like that show. It's very good. Very good.
Loosely based on my real life story.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Those just are a couple off the top of my head. Cody, can you think of any?
Okay, so in my heart of hearts, if he has his voice back, we bring on Val Kilmer.
Why would Val Kilmer come on this podcast?
Because he knows the fandom that he has.
you are a giant Val Kilmer honk. You just love Val Kilmer. I mean, he seems like a good dude.
Most people do.
I just don't know why he would be on the show.
I was watching the Superfan episodes.
It'd be like if I said Tom Cruise. Like, why would Tom Cruise be on our show?
That'd be weird.
It would be very weird because he's all into that Scientology thing and we're pastors.
Yeah.
And we'd be like, Tom, what's up with that, bro?
I don't know if I'd address it.
He'd be jumping on our chairs, and I don't think our chairs are good enough quality.
He would be buying new chairs.
He'd have to buy new chairs for the room here.
So we might want to invite Thomas Cruise. But so I was watching the Superfan episodes of The Office, and Michael Scott, I don't remember what episode it was, but he was talking about, so he was talking at the end of an episode, and it doesn't make it into the regular cut, of like who he'd want to have dinner with. And he's listing off all these famous names, and he's like, he gets to Val Kilmer, and he's like, but he's probably too big, too famous for this. And then he lists off a couple more names, and he's like, Jan.
Could we get the actress who played Jan on the podcast? I think that's a possibility.
Yes.
I would also say Mark Wahlberg.
Marky Mark?
Yeah, because he's at least recently shown signs that he may be of the faith. And I would just like to pick his brain and heart on that, just like to see where he's at.
I would also invite Nick Cage. See how cagey this interview can get?
You are going for all the heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Like Nick Cage may also be a tough get. But we're just going to throw him out there because you never know what might happen.
Yes. So, Nick Cage, if you're listening, you are on my list.
Like Mark Wahlberg, seriously, in all seriousness, we have about, I don't know, maybe 100 listeners. I mean, I don't know how to figure it from all the downloads or whatever, but we probably have about 100 listeners, which is not it's great. We're super thankful for that. But we're not a huge podcast. Do you know what would happen if we had Mark Wahlberg on? Like that would instantly, that would be so huge for us.
In the stratosphere.
And so I'm just like, Mark, bro, you want to help out a couple brothers in Christ?
We're here for you.
Come be on our podcast. Hang with us. We might just be fun. We're about the same age, I think.
Yeah.
I think I'm about the same age as Mark. And I promise if Mark Wahlberg comes on the show, I'll never call him Marky Mark again.
I will not make that promise.
Because I'm betting he doesn't like that.
Just in case he does like it, I'm here for him.
I just want to point out that I say it in love.
Yes.
So he doesn't beat me up because he seems like strong and stuff.
Yeah.
Cody, will you protect me if Mark Wahlberg attacks me?
Well.
Because in my mind, he's coming on the show. He's going to hear this somehow. And he's going to come on the show.
Yeah, I'll do it.
That would be wonderful. Let's get Mark Wahlberg.
Otherwise, John Krasinski. That's my last one.
Oh, my goodness. Things are not getting any easier. They're not getting any easier. Danica Giesman asks, what is the air velocity of an unladen swallow?
Oh, I'm glad you asked.
Oh, yeah. Spit it.
Okay, so if it's a European swallow, because it really does matter, 11 meters per second.
Interesting. You don't say.
Or 20.1 miles per hour.
Okay.
So, but if it's not a European, then we got to switch up the air velocity speeds. When you're a king, you must know these things.
Yeah, this is a Monty Python reference.
Yes, Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
What's your favorite color? Blue. No, wait. Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for our lobby segment. We answered a few of your questions. We'll be right back with the main topic of today's pod. Okay, welcome back. It's time for the main topic of this pod. We just wanted to kind of get back into the swing of things a little bit here. I was gone at summer camp, because I'm a youth pastor.
Camping it out.
I'm going to blame my sickness on that, by the way.
Too much fun in the sun.
Yeah, I'm allergic to fun and the sun.
All the above.
I was not put on this earth to be an outdoorsy person.
Yeah.
As it turns out. Yeah. But I'm struggling, but we wanted we wanted to kind of get back into the swing of things here because it feels like we've been gone a while.
We have.
Even though we've been coming out with regular content. But we wanted to just tell you, like, have the topic of this show be like, hey, here's some things that we've seen lately that we like, that we're into.
On my list will not be the new Jurassic World movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I mean, should I go see that so we can talk about it? Should we do a whole pod on the new Jurassic Park? Is it worth it?
A whole pod?
Like the main topic pod. I mean the main topic.
Like, because
if it's bad, I'm gonna have thoughts because I had thoughts before.
Yes,
my this has nothing to do with what the main topic is this week, but I'll just go ahead and say it. I am on record as saying Jurassic Park, in and of itself as a story, is not made for sequels because you can only take it in one direction once they're off the island, and it's kind of boring.
It has a Michael Crichton problem.
It's weird to keep talking about Michael Crichton problems because he's like a very good writer. He comes up with actually really good premises for stories.
Yes.
I just don't know that he's a great storyteller all the way around.
Him and J.J. Abrams both.
Yeah.
I'll say it.
Yeah.
They can come up with a good idea and you get sucked in and then strugs at the end.
I think what Carrie's Lost, the TV show, is that J.J. Abrams does start the show, come up with the premise, but it's actually Damon Lindelof, that who goes on to do The Leftovers, I believe.
Yeah.
Another kind of weird show, but he kind of gets the bulk of the storytelling duties there. And I think that's kind of what saves it. Because as we know, J.J. Abrams probably didn't have a plan. He probably didn't know where it was going.
Like, literally, J.J. Abrams almost makes Stranger Things with Super 8, but yet it doesn't end well. It feels rushed and...
Yeah, let's be really clear. I hadn't thought about that in a while, but Super 8 for 3/4 of the movie is great.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very good movie. It has all the kind of 80s feels that Stranger Things has, which actually I'm going to talk about later. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, the end. Oh, the end, bro. Not good. All right, hit me. What have you seen lately that you're into? What do you like?
Okay, so my first show is a show that was only one season and it's done already. So
what? That's happening a lot now.
Okay, but I blame myself for not watching it back then. / the way they ended the show kind of made it annoying and would have been difficult to do a second season. Lovecraft Country.
Okay.
On HBO Max.
On HBO, yeah.
Speaking of J.J. Abrams, he's one of the executive producers. Spoiler alert.
So what's the deal with J.J. Abrams? Is he not as good as we think he is?
Jordan Peele is also one of the executive producers on the show.
There's so much talent in this show. Jonathan Majors.
Jonathan Majors is great.
Late Michael Kenneth Williams.
Michael Kenneth Williams does a great job in the show.
Journey Smollett is in this show.
Jussie's sister.
Yeah. Unfortunately, she gets kind of dragged into that, but she's actually a good actress.
Jordan Patrick Smith from Vikings. He played Uba.
Yeah. And so you're into this. What does it have to do with H.P. Lovecraft? Is it weird?
Yeah. So it is the scary fiction stuff, but it's very Jordan Peele-esque, even though he's not the showrunner for it. He's just one of the executive producers. It has to deal with racism in America, but there's a lot of supernatural things that are going on with racism in America kind of being the background of it. And so it does some really cool storytelling things. At times, I think it gets a little too, if hyper focuses on some political topics, I'm like, okay, you're losing some storytelling with this.
That's a product of the time, though.
Yeah, it is. Otherwise, you get some tremendous performances, especially from Jonathan Majors.
See, I'm fascinated by Jonathan Majors, and I thought about going back and watching this, but I got to be honest, the fact that it's not going to continue kind of gives me pause. Like, now I don't know if I want to get into a show and then know that it's not going to go anywhere. Is it self-contained, or does it, like...
So the way it ends, you're like, okay, it has a Lord of the Rings Return the King ending where there's multiple endings where you're like, oh, they could stop here and it'd be great, but they keep going. And so the first ending, if it stopped right there, you'd be like, okay, so this is how this story ends, and the rest is, they say, is history. But then it has another couple scenes, and the way it actually ends, it's like, okay, it could have a sequel, but I don't know I'd be interested. You'd have to have a really good trailer, and it'd have to like jump forward in the future.
I will say this. I think Jonathan Majors, when he's on screen in what I've seen him in, the camera, he's magnetic.
Very.
Like, I just want to see things. I want to watch things where he's performing in it, simply on the strength of like that last episode of Loki alone. He is so engaging and interesting in that for a character that you really know nothing about, and shouldn't have worked. I guess is what I'm saying. The last episode of Loki that he's in, where he plays He Who Remains, he's like this mysterious kind of ethereal, weird character, and it shouldn't work, but it works because of Jonathan Majors. That's why it works.
Yeah.
And you can just see it, that this man is supremely talented. And I'm ready to watch anything with him in it. And I thought about going back and watching this.
So at times it kind of has a little bit of National Treasure-esque qualities in some of the storyline, and other times it's it can get a little dark, and then other times it gets very historical, and it like drives home the emotions very well. So my wife was the one that said we should watch this, and like halfway through the season we are watching it, and she's like, oh, this is that show, because they portray Emmett Till's funeral. And so she's like, I remember this being like a new story when this happened, when this episode dropped, but we weren't HBO subscribers, and so we weren't watching that show.
It ends up suffering the fate of a lot of HBO shows, which the reasoning out there for it being canceled after one season is it was too expensive.
Too expensive.
But there's rumblings of something else. Tinderbox, HBO's Ruthless Pursuit of New Frontiers, is a book that looks into the workings of HBO, written by Andrew Miller. James Andrew Miller claims the set may have been toxic due to showrunner Misha Green. There's rumblings out there that it was quote unquote not a healthy environment.
So I heard that. I heard it was too expensive, and then I also heard it was too expensive to have a garbage storyline.
Okay.
And so the second season, I don't know where you go. Although this is based on a book, and so I should probably read the book.
Yeah. Well, that's, I don't think, like we just got done saying something about Jurassic Park. I don't think everything needs sequels or seasons after you tell the story, because some stories just don't lend themselves to that. And then you're only doing it because you want to like keep a gravy train growing,
Yeah.
And Jurassic Park's a perfect example of that, because Crichton hadn't wrote The Lost World.
Yeah.
Like the only thing he wrote was Jurassic Park when Spielberg makes that movie. And then because of the success of the movie, Crichton writes The Lost World. And you can tell it's one of Crichton's worst books.
Spoilers.
Yeah, it's not good. And then it turns into a not good movie, even though it has Vince Vaughn in it. I love Vince Vaughn. I like giving Vince Vaughn props whenever I can.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's my first show.
One of the things I'm loving right now that we haven't talked a lot about is Stranger Things.
I have heard of it.
Stranger Things season 4. I just got done watching the first set of shows that dropped. It's everything people have said. It's somehow way scarier than the previous seasons. They really bring the scares, but they don't lose the charm. And this show has always captured like that 80s sensibility of being able to do horror, but have comedy and have charm, like with kids in it.
Yeah.
And it's a weird combo. It's really very specifically 80s. The 90s, with Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer, they tried to like make fun of that. They tried to spoof it in a way, and it kind of results in this whole other genre of horror. But 80s really did this thing where, and not always well, by the way.
No.
They just did this thing where you'd have kids in the middle of this scary story, and it was just really 80s. And then Stranger Things comes along and just does this all so well, where all at once I can be scared, entertained, I can laugh, and I can fall in love with these characters. And we've watched them grow now over the course of this show. And season 4, I didn't watch it when it first came out because it's been so long. They're older now. They're all like, I think they're supposed to be juniors or seniors in high school, somewhere around there. Maybe not that old, maybe sophomores or juniors. And I expected to not like it as much, but that's not the case at all. I loved it. And I binged it pretty quickly, and I can't wait for the last 2 episodes to come out in July.
So, random story, because something that I loved about this season, early on, it had a very Nightmare on Elm Street vibe going on.
Yes.
With all the dream stuff, and then you have Robert Englund actually in this season.
And I noticed that. So he shows up as a cameo, and immediately I'm like, "That's Freddy!" And my oldest daughter's watching it with me. She's like, "I don't know who's that." I was like, "Oh, well, you wouldn't know this, but he was like a big horror icon in the '80s."
Frederick Krueger.
We like to call him. Never mind.
But so I'm reading a story. He actually auditioned to be in a role for season 3. On Stranger Things.
Did he?
And did not get the role. And he didn't know if it was a bad audition or if he was too old. And he was very disappointed. But then the Duffer Brothers offered him this role for season 4.
Well, this season is fabulous. And the story itself does a great job. And I'm not going to spoil anything if you haven't seen it.
I just spoiled that Robert Englund.
I mean, it's a cameo. That's not technically a spoiler. I'm not going to spoil any story elements, but I will say you can tell it's leading to a place where they're going to wrap up this story. Like, this story is not going to have any loose ends. Like, you can see by the end of this little run how this is all tying together from beginning to end. You can see that they have a plan for the story, that they had a plan for the story, and it's all going to touch, it's not going to be like Lost, where you're going to have all these unanswered questions. In fact, they may be leading to a place to say that the whole thing, the upside down and everything, and this is just speculation, may have been caused by, certain parties that are on the show.
Yeah.
So like, I really feel like they're heading for this like complete resolution.
Although season 5 is the last season when it comes out,
but they're
going to be old.
Yeah, but I think they're filming it concurrently here. I think they're not wasting any time because they understand that. I mean, Millie Bobby Brown has been dressing like a 24-year-old since she was 13.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus, but celebrity kids, oh my goodness, we could do a whole show on that. On like, where are the parents at? Anyways, that's off topic. She's great in it, by the way. She always has been, though. She got most of the attention.
Yeah.
Did Millie Bobby Brown. But let's talk about some of these other actors for a second. Finn Wolfhard is amazing. And it's not until you see him in other things like Ghostbusters where he gets to play like a different kind of kid.
Yeah.
Where you understand how good he is in Stranger Things.
He was good in it. This pastor did watch it.
Yeah. Noah Schnapp, who plays Will Byers, doesn't get a lot to do. And there's tons of articles out there about that, about he's not more a part of the story.
His character doesn't even get his birthday celebrated. Spoilers.
Gaten Matarazzo, who plays Dustin, is great. Caleb McLaughlin, who plays Lucas, is great. Sadie Sink, who plays Max, is an integral part of the story this season. And she has been amazing. Like, I thought she was been awesome in this season. Really got a lot to do emotionally.
She did a great job in the R.L. Stine.
Goosebumps?
I don't know.
Was she in Goosebumps?
They did that R.L. Stine mini series on Netflix.
Oh, okay. She was in that?
She was in that. Now you're going to make me look it up.
Oh, you don't have to do that.
I'm going to do it for the listeners.
Let's talk about Joe Keery. Well, first of all, let's just talk about this for a second because we talked about Glee last week.
Being cursed.
And, well, we specifically talked about how during the run of Glee, we thought that all those kids were going to be stars.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was just generally accepted that we thought all of them would be stars. And, here years later, some of them have had tragic things happen to them and are not around. But then the rest of them are just kind of not anything. I do not think that's what's going to happen here. I think a lot of these kids have big futures. I think they're extremely talented. Finn Wolfhard's great. Millie Bobby Brown obviously is going to be around for a while. Everyone seems to agree she's got the acting chops. But let's just talk about Joe Keery for a second. Joe Keery, who plays Steve Harrington. If they wanted to do a spinoff with just Steve, I'm here for it. He's my favorite character by far. And if they wanted to make it a road show with Steve and Dustin, where they go on the road, I'm double here for it.
I'd also be good if they did a Steve and Robin spinoff where they're just friending it up through college.
And I'll even take this one step further. There was some rumors out there that Joe Keery was going to be Ferris Bueller in a remake of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Now, they did the commercial.
Yeah.
Where he goes through the beats of running through the people's yard. I think that would be amazing, and I would definitely pay money to see that.
So to go back, it's Fear Street.
Oh, okay.
That's the R.L. Stein.
Are you here for a Ferris Bueller remake starring Joe Keery? That's what I want to know.
I'd do it, but they'd have to change the story.
Oh, yeah. Of
they
course.
Have to update it.
I mean, you update it a little bit. I just like him. He's in a lot of the same ways that I like, the guy from Majors, Jonathan Majors.
Yeah.
And in a lot of different ways. So Jonathan Majors clearly is a guy who we can all look at and say, boy, he's got some acting chops. And I'm not saying Joe Keery's can't be a great actor. I don't know. But in the same way as Majors, where when he's on screen, I'm just looking at him. I'm drawn to his performance. And so I think the cast of Stranger Things is just amazing. And maybe the best cast for a show in the last 10 to 20 years as an ensemble.
So Caleb McLaughlin, a.k.a. Lucas.
Lucas, yeah.
His character actually gets some bigger parts this go-round, and I'm happy for it.
Yes.
Him.
So the wonderful thing that the Duffer Brothers have done, who are the creators of this story, is some of the characters, some of these kids who are shuffled off to the side earlier, like Lucas, and Max, they get things to do. Like Lucas is a much bigger part of the story as he's kind of divided from the group early on. He's a jock.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah, he's on the basketball team, and we get to see him kind of struggle with I'm trying to fit in with this new group, but my heart is with my old group. And I think, a lot of people can identify with stuff like that because high school is weird. And just again, a credit to the Duffer Brothers because they capture all of this within a horror film, a horror story. But it's a part horror story, part comedy, part teenage melodrama. And they get it right. It's not pandering.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful. It's just a wonderful, wonderful show. And I'm gonna be sad when it ends.
And
I'm already sad that they're not kids anymore.
Spoiler alert, you will fall in love with Argyle.
Oh man, Argyle's great. The thing about Argyle is look, we're pastors, okay? So we're not going to sit here and talk about Argyle's problems. But the truth is, if you grew up in a place of any size, you knew an Argyle.
Yep.
I knew an Argyle. As soon as he's on screen, he reminded me of someone I knew. Mm-hmm. In a lot of ways. He's a very endearing character, if not totally law-abiding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just great stuff. The other new guy is great too. Steve, is that his name? No, Eddie.
No, Eddie.
Eddie.
Yeah.
Eddie's a wonderful addition to the show too.
I'm here for that.
Yeah. What do you got? What do you got next?
Okay, let me pull up my list. Okay, so this one's actually from this year. It is entitled From the TV series.
Yeah, I want to check this out. Now, they didn't cancel this yet, did they?
I believe it is still a go for season 2.
Good.
And it has a couple familiar faces, but they're not like people that would be big jump off the screen actors. Harold Perrineau.
Perrineau, yeah, he
Yes.
was on Lost.
So he is your big go-to guy on this show, and he's the primary focus, sort of. Like he's one of the main characters. And so it's from the creators of Lost. And
So I'm already interested just because of that.
yes, let's see, John Griffin.
How many episodes?
10,
man.
10 episodes.
10 episodes. What network? What are we talking about? Paramount Plus? Was that what the network?
I don't think it was. It was on Epix. That was it.
Epix. Now,
Yes.
where
So-
do I find Epix?
Amazon Prime.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can access it on Prime.
Yes.
All right.
And so I think you can get the first 4 episodes, watch them for free on Prime, and then you can do like a 7-day trial of Epix on Prime and watch the rest. Or you could just keep Epix. I don't know if Epix has what you need or not.
So give me the simple, vague synopsis.
Okay, so this is a science fiction, scary show, if you will.
All right, I'm in.
Yes. Essentially, there is this community, and it kind of seems to be kind of an island unto themselves. A family's driving around. They're on a family vacation, although you know there's some issues because the teenager in the RV has some angst towards mom and dad.
This sounds oddly like the plot of Funny Farm starring Chevy Chase. No? No.
And so there's some marital issues, but they're going on this family vacation. They drive through this town, and then they keep driving, and then they drive through the town again, and then they drive through the town again.
It's one of those they can't escape type deals.
Yes. And so then you start to find out the backstory of some people within the town. You also find out the people in the town are not alone, especially at night.
All right.
And so it has some survival elements to it, has some unique storytelling, and the main guy that was in Lost, he has to kind of do a quest, and yeah, there's some good things happening on this show.
Okay. So
And
you're
some-
looking forward to season 2.
Yes, there's some beloved characters.
Does it end on a cliffhanger?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if they don't bring it back, I will be devastated because this one has
Cody
no
is going
resolve.
to burn the place down if they do not have a season 2.
Yes.
Let's just look. What was the name of it from?
From
Season 2. Do we have any word on that yet? I'm not seeing anything. Will there be a season 2 of From? People ask. Epix has renewed the contemporary sci-fi horror series From.
Huzzah!
Oh, God bless you, Internet.
Yes. I was getting worried at first.
All right. The last thing I want
Yes.
to talk about is a documentary.
Docs.
It's called George Carlin's American Dream. It's a 2-part documentary on HBO for those of you that have HBO Max. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful because I loved George Carlin growing up. I absolutely love George Carlin, and it's a great look into him, who he was. He's one of he's known as one of the best comedians of all time. And it's so weird because to see this background into him, because he wanted to be Danny Kaye. Like he wanted to be like a singing, dancing comedy guy on movies, and like he wanted to be Danny Kaye, and that's just so weird when you think about who George Carlin is.
Although, like, the way he gets animated on stage, you can kind of see that portion, but not to that extent.
So part of the documentary, especially the first part, where you get to see him kind of go through this process of an evolution, and he starts off as this kind of like almost this like vaudeville variety show kind of guy. And there was something about it that was really sweet and innocent in a way that made me see George Carlin in a new light. But then it was also kind of sad because he goes in this different direction. Now, if you know anything about George Carlin, what's really interesting about him is that he's subversive, right?
Very.
His comedy is subversive. He subverts popular culture. And in fact, it's one of the reasons I kind of really still have a lot of respect and dig him. He's very thoughtful. I often joke around and call him the philosopher of our generation. Mm-hmm. And they actually talk about this a little bit in the show, and that Chris Rock actually says something. There's no more philosophers anymore, but there are comedians. That comedians are the thinkers of our age. And it makes a lot of sense as he says it. But Carlin was very subversive. And in a Christian sense, it's interesting to me because that's what we're called to be. So Jesus calls Christians to be subversive, to be counterculture, but with hope. Yeah. And the thing about Carlin is he doesn't have that. And it's really interesting because in the story, he references in the documentary why he doesn't believe, because he's raised Irish Catholic.
Yeah.
And this is amazing, Cody. Essentially, why he says he doesn't believe is because he was getting ready to take communion as a kid, and a priest told him that he'd never feel the same, that he would feel something, and he didn't. And he concluded at that young age that it was all a lie. And so now you see his life of this subversiveness where he's counterculture, but it's no hopes involved. And so it's all cynicism. So he's a master of cynicism. He's cynical. And if you know his comedy, you understand that. So like in our day and age where we're masters of the meme and of quotes, like you see the left and the right try to use Carlin quotes or clips. Yeah. And it's always funny when they do that. It's always, you understand that it's probably someone young who didn't understand who George Carlin was because he hated both the right and the left. And he actually talks about this in the documentary about how he loves individuals, but as soon as people gather in any sort of group, he says he doesn't trust it. So he's very cynical and untrusting of groups of humans.
Yeah, I myself am not a huge fan of when we do grouping, because you do cast out individuals when you do that. So now you have me intrigued to watch this documentary, which I already was, but I just hadn't gotten to it.
Oh man, it's an amazing show. It really shows well his kind of evolution. How this guy, George Carlin, was going to make it on some level at some point, because like many successful people in this way that get remembered in this way, like he's one of the best, he just had this drive where he just wasn't going to quit. And that, leads to obvious sufferings in his home life. Although, his marriage is looked back on as like he had a long marriage, but they had lots of problems, lots of substance abuse between the two of them. And it's the same old thing, like he's gone a lot. She's left to hold down the fort and feels like she's not a part of that life. Yeah. And they make reference to that quite a bit in the documentary. But it's just a wonderful documentary. It's done by Apatow, actually.
Of the Judd variety.
Yeah. And it's very, very, very good. And I just enjoyed it immensely. And George Carlin is just one of those guys that, again, I think even though George Carlin's an atheist, and I'm sitting here as a Christian, I can look at George Carlin and say, man, the world would be a better place if people thought deeply like him. Because what I think when I watch this documentary and I think about George Carlin, I think one of the big problems we have is we're not deep thinkers. We don't just sit and ponder why life is the way it is. We don't have time.
Yeah, and we're very superficial, very. Yeah. And I know people that get upset when other people like ask deep questions or even analyze movies on a deeper level, like why would this character do this when throughout they've done that, and people are like, just enjoy it for entertainment's sake. But it's okay to actually think, to have thoughts, and to question.
And if if cursing bothers you, you're not going to want to watch this.
Nope.
Obviously, we can look at George Carlin as a man and say he has flaws, and that we don't agree with everything he said. But oh my goodness, would I love to have a conversation with him? Yeah. If someone asked us in the lobby, who would you like to have on the show? And if I could bring back anyone dead or alive, George Carlin would be at the top of my list, And this is a good example, this documentary, of why I would, because I know this guy thinks. He's a deep thinker, and I just like to have conversations with a guy like this, and I can't help but wonder if things go differently in his early life, if he'd have the same thoughts about religion. He's got all the hallmarks of someone burned by organized religion.
Yeah.
And I'm on many levels, I'm thankful I didn't grow up in the church, so I don't have that baggage.
Yeah, and even myself, I don't come to the faith until I'm almost 13. So I'm not brought up in it, but my formative years are within the faith. So,
yeah. And George Carlin is so this documentary is wonderful, and just a look at how a guy, he really figures out there's a corner he turns where he figures out the way for him to be is to just be subversive, be countercultural. And that's always interesting to watch. I think you're watching Dave Chappelle kind of do this now. Mm-hmm. Dave Chappelle has kind of figured this out a little bit, where it doesn't matter how much heat he takes. In a lot of ways, if you remove yourself from the culture, you can't be canceled by it. And as much as we like to talk about cancel culture being a now thing, watching this documentary made me realize, oh, no. George Carlin would have been familiar with this, because he really goes a direction, especially during the Vietnam years, where people are basically trying to cancel him. They're trying to get rid of him.
You can't get rid of this guy.
But it's a great documentary, and it's got what a lot of good documentaries have. You got a lot of recognizable guest stars, especially in episode 2. So it's cut into 2 episodes. Mm-hmm. So you got a lot of people that worked with him, a lot of comedians, John Seinfeld and Jon Stewart, Kevin Smith, famous director who had him in his movie Dogma, tells a funny story about him and Ben Affleck. It's just great. It's just good stuff, and I would recommend it.
Okay, yeah, that's
just not when the kids are around. A lot of cursing.
Yeah,
I watched it with earbuds on my phone.
Way to protect the children.
I like to protect the children. All right. Anything else?
An honorable mention. I won't go too deep on it. Norm Macdonald, Nothing Special.
Ooh, yeah, I want to see that.
So it is his last stand-up, but he's filming it while sick with cancer and during the pandemic. So it is him at home in front of a screen.
And an interesting contrast from Carlin as he comes to the faith.
Yeah.
Later in his life.
And so the cool thing about at the end of this, there's like, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 minutes where they bring on people, famous comedians right after they get done watching it. So it's hosted by Letterman and Sandler, Spade, Chappelle's there, and Molly Shannon, thank you. And Molly Shannon will bring up that Norm in his last like 10 to 15 years of life starts going back to the faith.
Yeah.
And the others, they agree and then they move on. But for her, it was an important thing to bring up. But they'll bring up some heartfelt stories about Norm. They'll bring up how it's weird to perform without an audience and you're seeing it, but yet he does it masterfully. And he does some subversion, if you will, of several things. And it's good. It's worth your hour or hour and 20 minutes, whatever it is.
It's definitely on my list. I want to watch that documentary as well. Hey, tell us what you've been watching lately, what you've been enjoying. Comment below when we post this episode to our social media on Facebook and on Twitter. Tell us what you've been enjoying, and we'll maybe start a conversation about that.
Yeah.
Also, if you like our podcast and you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast and rate and review it. It does a lot of good things in helping other people discover the podcast. It helps us if you're on Good Pods, for instance, and you do it there. It helps us move up the list and more people discover it, and that's a good thing for the podcast.
Yeah.
We appreciate each and every one of you. We got another Radio Leftovers pod that'll drop on Tuesday, but until then, the next episode is next Friday, and we'll see you then.
Adios.